for today is going to be analyzing the concepts of business, right? Analyzing the concepts of business, right? Now, students, can you see in the tube, right? You have certain blanks, right? You have certain blanks, right? For each theoretical area. So in that case, don't fill any of the blanks, right? I will first teach you the concept, right? First, I will teach you the concept, and then once you learn the concept very well, I will be narrating you the note, right? I'll be narrating you the note, then you can write it. Okay, so in that case, don't fill anything before I say. All right, okay. And if you want to note anything extra, the examples that I give, right, the additional information that I put, you can note them down in any of your notebooks or in the handout itself. I have given you some spaces, right? So until I narrate, don't fill these blanks, okay? Then I'll be giving you the note for this, okay? Right. All right. So we'll start off with the uh, most, we'll start off with the most simplest and the most fundamental concept in business, right? Needs, right? Needs, right? Now, how many of y'all have done commerce for your O levels? Show of hands, physical students, right? How many of y'all have done commerce for O levels? Online students also, y'all can let me know, right, whether you have done commerce for O levels. Yes, okay, we have like plenty of students who has done. Online students, no one has done commerce. Okay, that's fine. That's okay, right? That's fine. Right. Okay. Anyways, right? Needs, right? Some of y'all might have learned in your ordinary level. Some of y'all might have not learned. That's fine. That's okay, right? So we'll take baby steps, right? Now, what do you mean by a need, right? What do you mean by a need, right? Need or needs, right? If you, mama sinhalen kiwot ehema avashyata, right? Avashyata, right? So what is a need? Very simply, students, a need is a needs are the basic essentials, right? Needs are the basic essentials that every human being should satisfy. These are the basic essentials, right? Now, if you don't satisfy these needs, the problem is you won't be able to live a comfortable life, or you won't be able to live a happy life, right? That's the seriousness of these things, right? If you don't fulfill these, you won't be able to live a happy life or comfortable life. Then, students, what are these basic essentials? What are these basic essentials, right? Okay. uh, can anyone of y'all tell me a few examples for the basic essentials, right? The things that are essential for your life, for you to live a good life. Any guesses? Students who are joining online also, you can what do you call it, interact with me, right? Okay. Any answers? Yes. Exactly. Place to live. So shelter, right? You need a place to live. Otherwise, a problem, right? Food, very good, right? Very good, right? Food, water, clothing, shelter, right? All those things, very good examples, right? Thank you very much for giving all these examples. Very nice, right? So yes, you all know, of course, without basic essentials like food, water, clothing, and shelter, you won't be able to live a comfortable life, right? You won't be able to live a comfortable life. If you take food as an example, let's take food, right? Now, if you are in hunger, right? If you are in hunger, right? Early in the morning or in the middle of the day, if you are in hunger, if you don't have enough food, right, or if you don't get a time to have enough food, right, that hunger level will go to an extreme where, right, you will suffer a lot, right, and then you will have to get yourself hospitalized, right, due to several reasons, gastritis or some other sickness level will come, right. So you can survive without food maximum, I would say, for me, of course, I can survive without food only for like maximum uh, two meals maximum. There might be some individuals might be able to survive without food for like 2 days, right. So but after that you cannot, right, because reports suggest that, right, if you take reports, right, general reports suggest that for a human being you can maximum stay for like 3 days without food, right. After that it will lead to extreme sickness levels, right, and sometimes you might die because uh, of not having food or being with hunger. So there you go, without food we cannot live a good life or a happy life. Then what can you say about water? Right now these days, of course, you might be wondering, okay, I mean, you might be impacted with the very sunny weather conditions during the daytime, no, right? So of course during the daytime it's very hot, right, and you cannot just survive without any liquid during the daytime, even these days, right? So you got to have water, otherwise, if you now, let's say, if you don't have water, you can survive for like few hours, I would say. After some time you get dehydrated, right? You get dehydrated and then you will faint. Problem, right? Now I'm explaining without having or without satisfying your needs you cannot live a comfortable or a happy life, right? So that's what I'm explaining now, right? Then if you take clothing, right, then if you take clothing, of course, we need to have proper clothing, right? Right now nowadays, if you go out, the climate conditions are highly uncertain, right? Okay, so in the morning or during the daytime it is very sunny, right? It's very hot, so you got to cover yourself with something, right? Otherwise your skin get sunburned, right? And then in the evening it rains, right? Very uncertain, right? So you got to have those jackets and everything, otherwise you get wet, right? So you need clothing, students. If you don't have proper clothing, right, it will lead to another uncomfortable level, right? Now not only Sri Lanka, students, if you take other countries like uh, the European countries, right, uh, everyone everyone is wearing a jacket, right? They cover themselves. Why? In the Europe, in most of the time it's kind of cold, right? It's very cold actually, right? So in that case you got to cover yourself, right? If you don't cover yourself with proper clothing, right, then that will lead to different types of sicknesses, right? Different uncomfortable situations, right? So that's the essential level of clothing. Then uh, one student, Evin, gave me a nice example of a place to live. Yes, of course. So we can call it as shelter, right? So every one of us need to have a proper place to live, right? Okay, right. So you go home, you have a house, you have a nice house. You go there after school, right? So you relax yourself. Right? If you have a proper shelter, if you have a proper house, you could go and relax yourself, right? Right. You can have a nice time at your home with your family, right? So for that, you need a proper shelter. I think ample amount of you all might have seen lots of homeless people in the streets, no? Right? When you are traveling, you might have seen a lot of homeless people. I don't know how they survive. Right? Right. So it's raining, sometimes it's sunny, right? But they don't have a proper place to stay, right? So it's a problem. They're not living a happy life, They're not living a happy life, but we are living a comfortable life because we have actually fulfilled our basic needs, right? Which are food, water, clothing, and shelter, right? Okay, right, students. So, that's the basic understanding of needs. So before we take things forward, shall we write down the note, right? So when I narrate the note, you got to write it down in this blank, right? Okay, right. All good already? Fine. Okay. Needs. You can write the physical and mental conditions, right? The physical and mental conditions. The physical and mental conditions which are compulsory, which are compulsory, right? Compulsory means mandatory, right? Which are compulsory to be fulfilled by, to be fulfilled by humans, to be fulfilled by humans are known as needs, are known as needs. Then in the second point, you can write essential for the, right? The second line you can write essential for the, essential for the existence, essential for the existence of every human being, of every human being, right? Of every human being. Then the third line you can write, right? You can continue writing. The main aim of business, right? The main aim of business, the main aim of business is to, the main aim of business is to satisfy needs. The main aim of business is to satisfy needs. Okay, right? Right. So students, can I get a small feedback whether my reading speed is it manageable, right? Or do you want me to slow it down? So we got to know all these things because this is our first day. Yes, sir, it's manageable. Okay, thank you, Evie. Right? Other online students, other online students. Can I get a feedback from other online students as well? Right? Okay. Right. Physical students, what about you all? What about you all? Is the speed manageable? Okay, fine, good, right. All right, thank you very much for the feedback. Okay, right. So we'll take things forward. Right. Right. So if you go down, right, every individual has four fundamental needs, right? Now, of course, you all know that very well, right? Four fundamental needs. You got to satisfy your need for food, need for water, need for clothing, and need for shelter, and need for shelter, right? Okay, good. Now, students, in here, I just want to emphasize a small thing, right? Now, if you take needs in the, if you look at the definition which I gave you very specifically, right? It says needs are the physical and mental conditions. Needs are the physical and mental condition, right? Okay. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Let's elaborate it furthermore, right? Right. Right. So students, if you take needs, right? If you take needs, right? Right. If you take needs, right? Right. Needs are not only physical ones, right? Needs are not only physical ones, right? Right. Needs are not only physical ones, right? So you have physical needs, right? You have physical needs, right? You have physical needs like what? Right? Physical needs or physical conditions. What are the physical needs? Right? Right? So basically, these physical needs are students. Very specifically, these are the needs that you need to satisfy for your body to function properly. Right? Okay. Right. Okay. So those are physical needs. Like what? Like food. Right. Water. Right. Then so let's note it down here. Right. Like what? Like food. Then you have water. Then clean air. Right. Because you got to have clean air. Right. Right. You got to have clean oxygen, clean air. Otherwise, you won't be able to breathe properly. Right. Clean air. Right. Then shelter. Right. Shelter. Right. Clothing. Right. So students, these are all physical needs, right? That will these if you satisfy these physical needs will help you to what do you call help you to function your body and your lifestyle properly. Okay, so those are physical needs. Then if you take needs, students, there are another set of needs that you need to satisfy, right? And you need to focus. Those are mental needs. It is also very important, right? 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 So mental needs are also very important, students, right? Because I mean, we as human beings, we all try to satisfy our physical needs, right? We all try to satisfy our physical needs, but there's a huge hindrance in the society that people are not focused on satisfying their mental needs, right? So some cases, some people, uh, I mean, they are unable to, they are not in a position to satisfy their mental needs, right? So what are these mental needs, right? So what are these mental needs? Mental needs, students, very specifically, very practical, right? Just think about yourself, right? Just think about yourself for your mental well-being, right? For your mental satisfaction, right? You got to satisfy these mental needs, right? Right. What are these? As examples, we can use things like emotions like love, isn't it? Right? Right. Everyone, everyone expect love, right? Everyone expect love. Right? If you take in a family, right? In a family, uh, you expect love from your parents, right? Isn't it? You expect love from your parents, right? You expect love from your siblings, right? Your elder siblings, your younger siblings, right? You expect love from your relatives, right? If you are a husband, I mean, if you have a family, the husband and wife would expect love to each other, right? And if you have friends, you would expect love from your friends, right? Love, caring, right? Caring, right? Caring is also another need, a mental need, right? 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 What else? Right? What else? Right? Then if you're working in an organization, right? I mean, you doesn't have to work in an organization, right? many individuals, they would expect recognition, 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 right? Not only in an organization, right? Right. Let's say in an organization, there are employees who work really hard, right? They give their entire time for the office, right? Some employees are there who are working during the weekends also, right? Not taking off, right? And going home in the night. So these employees are giving uh, their best effort and time to the work that they do. So these employees would expect recognition for that, right? If the bosses are not recognizing the effort and the time of these employees who are working really hard, after some time these employees will get frustrated, isn't it? Yes. So very important. That is a mental need, right? Not only people who are working in organizations, even us, right? Even us, right? Now you as kids, right? Whenever you all achieve something, it could be good grades in your exams, right? Or it could be you have done well in a particular game, a cricket match, or whatever the sport that you do. You have done well, you have scored well, right? Then you come and tell your parents with a lot of pride and happiness, right? Then at that particular point, you would expect some recognition from the parents, no? Right? Some appreciation. Wow, child, you have done a great job, right? You have scored well, right? 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 So we are very happy about you. Likewise, these children, they would expect. I think the same for y'all as well, isn't it, students? Right? Right? What if you do really well and you don't get that recognition? You get frustrated, no? You feel like, ayo, I've done a lot of things. I have won these, right? I have done very well in my term test, but no recognition, right? Okay. So recognition should be there. That's why when you score well or when you do something really good, parents will buy you some good food, right? From a restaurant, they will take you to a restaurant or they will take you on a trip. So I could remember when I was a small kid, right? When I was a small kid, just like you all, right? When I mean, uh, there was a practice where when I was doing my O levels, A levels, and before that also, right? Uh, After exams, right? You have these exams of first term test, second term test, and third term test, right? So in my family, there was a practice where as soon as you complete an exam, right, my parents will take me out on a trip, right? And my parents will take me out on a trip, right? Right? To a nice place, to a nice hotel or something like that. They take me out, right? So, so I feel very ambitious about it, right? Very happy about it. Even before the exam, I get ready, right? I get ready for the trip, right? In advance because I know after the exam we are going on a trip, right? I used to buy clothes, right? Based on the trip that we are traveling, right? So that is recognition actually. At home, your effort, right? Sitting for your exam and day and night studying, right? Right? A lot of commitment that you put in, so you have been recognized. Right? So I could remember that. So I just wanted to, just to narrate that to you, right? So that is called recognizing. So once that is done, you feel highly valued. You feel mentally happy. You feel mentally happy, right? So I hope students, you all also have same what you call procedures at home, right? I hope definitely. I hope you all have certain procedures at home, right? Okay. So anyway, students, right? These are few of the mental needs, right? Right now, don't think that uh, satisfying needs is not only satisfying your physical needs, right? So if you are satisfying your needs, you got to focus on your physical needs as well as mental needs. Very, very important. Very, very important, right? So I just want to, elaborate it furthermore, right? I have seen some individuals, right? Sometimes they, what do you call, get themselves suicide, right? Right? I've heard a lot of sad stories also, right? Some people, they hang themselves, right? They get themselves suicide because because if you look at the stories of these students, if you look at the stories of these people who get, who get themselves killed and killed, right? They have all the physical needs satisfied, right? They have, lavish houses, right? They wear good clothes, right? They have enough food, right? They have enough, and everything of physical needs are satisfied. But there's a small gap in their mental needs, where the mental needs of these people who are suffering, right? They have not satisfied their mental needs. Some of these individuals who get killed, or who get themselves suicided, they might not have a family. They are all left alone. No one is there to care them. There you go. That's the most important thing. So if you don't satisfy your mental needs, but if you have satisfied your physical need, you have not fulfilled, right? Okay. So now can you see the gravity of satisfying your needs, right? Gravity of satisfying your physical and mental conditions. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. Okay. All right, students. So that's what I want to explain you in the definition, right? The physical and mental conditions, right? Now you know needs are very essential for every human being, right? Right. Now, do you all have any questions as of now? Right. You all have any questions as of now? Now, the things that I write on the board, you can just note them down in your notebook as well. That is totally fine. Okay. Extra note. Okay. Right. 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 So before we take things forward, students, we discussed a bit of the concepts in needs. Do you all have any questions? Physical students, do you all have any questions? Understood? Clean and clear? Crystal clear? All right. Okay, fine. What about students who are joining online? All good? Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Right. Now, students, when it comes to needs, right? Right. When it comes to needs, right? We know the basic for fundamental needs of food, water, clothing, and shelter, right? Now, the students, the thing is this, right? If you look at traditionally, right? If you go back in the time, right? If you go back in the time, right? Give me 1 second. Right. Yeah, it's getting recorded. Right. So if you go back in the time, right? In the ancient times, people were very happy and comfortable in their life, right? When they satisfy their basic four needs, which is food, water, clothing, and shelter, right? So they were very happy at ancient times. Okay, they were quite living a good life if they satisfied all of these four fundamental needs. But students, if you look at from the current context, right? If you look at from the current context, right? The world is changing, right? The world is changing a lot. Right? It's very dynamic, right? We call it as dynamic, right? Dynamic, right? Dynamic. The world is changing, right? Right? The technology is changing, right? Uh, uh, Geopolitical or certain political factors are changing, right? So a lot of factors are changing around the globe, right? So as a result of it, students, nowadays, the list of needs has expanded furthermore that every human being should satisfy, right? Due to the changes that happens in the current business world. So what are these other set of needs that you need to satisfy nowadays, right? Like what, right? Right? You have education, right? So you can also fill your note, education. Then you have communication, right? Then you have transportation, Then you have health, right? Then you have security, and then you have entertainment, right? Entertainment, right? Okay, right? So students, nowadays, right, due to the changes in the world, right, apart from these four fundamental needs, every human being should satisfy the following set of needs as well, right? Following set of needs as well. Okay, right. Right. I hope you have written down this, noted down in your notebook, right? So let's take a further step and take a deep dive into these needs and see, right? Right. Right. First, I will take, right, few needs, right? Now, the following set of needs which I mentioned right now, right, right, will come to the surface, right, right, will come to the surface where people should urgently satisfy those things at different points in time, right? So if you take the time from 2019, to take the time 2019, 2020, right, 2019, right, 2020, 21, right, say 2022, right, during that time frame, right, right, during that time frame, the whole world was facing a huge issue, right? The world was facing, not only our country, the whole world was facing a huge issue, right? Right. It was a emergency situation in the whole world, right? Where people were dying day by day because of what? Because of what? Because of COVID, right? Yes, right. Because of COVID, right? COVID-19, nah? Right? 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 So during this time frame, students, right, a lot of citizens in the whole world, they lost their families, they lost their family members because of this COVID-19 virus, right? Even I also lost, right? Even I also lost few of my personal relations, right, because of this COVID-19 pandemic. Right? So the whole world was facing a pandemic during this time, right? So during this time, students, there was one particular need. There was one particular need which people wanted to satisfy on top of all the other needs. On top of all the other needs. Can you tell me what that need was during this time, during this period? What was the need which everyone in the whole world wanted to satisfy more than anything else? Uh-huh. I'm getting some answers. Yes, exactly. The need for health, the need for health, right? The need for health and safety was given priority. Why? People were dying day by day, right? Irrespective of what status that you were in, you might be very rich, you might have been very poor, you might have been in the middle income family. It didn't matter. Everyone was looking for some cure, right? A medical solution to face this COVID-19 virus, right? Right. So people were pleading for help. There were no room in hospitals, and some hospitals, the doctors were not trained before, right, to handle a situation like this, because this is something totally different and new, right? Right. Even doctors were like clueless what is happening, right? It was totally new, right? So at that particular point in time, health, right? Health became a priority, right? Right. So that's why we all went to get all these vaccines and all, right? Whenever it came into the country, we went to different places to get the vaccine done just to save ourselves, right? Right. So we were not caring about food, clothing, shelter, nothing. We were not caring about anything at all, right? Right? But we gave priority for health. We gave priority for health. So likewise, students, at different points in time, right? Even though we have four fundamental needs, and even though we have other set of needs, right? There are certain needs that come as very urgent to satisfy during certain periods of time. During certain periods of time. Okay, so that's what I want to mention, right? So these needs will be important in different points in time, right? Because the world is changing. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, right? We don't know what will happen tomorrow, right? And even if you take things like education, very important nowadays, right? Education is very important, right? Right? And you have ample amount of options available in the market. Why? Right? If you want to go and work for an organization, they will look at your education level, right? Right? If you want to apply for a, let's say, a, a higher studies option in another country, they will look at your previous education qualification. So likewise, education has become important nowadays, right? For you to be successful in your life. Okay, so in that case, make sure that since you all have started advanced level, you all know the power of education now. That's why you all have started advanced level, right? Just to spend time and learn something, right? And then become a good citizen, right? In the future, right? Right. Communication is very important, right? Communication is very important, right? With the use of technology, right? With the use of technology, now the businesses are going to different countries, right? So in that case, communication matters a lot, right? Then transportation very important, right? Transportation is very important for local trade, right? The trade which happens inside the country, and also transportation is important for foreign trade as well. If you are a business who is into imports and exports, no, you are bringing goods from other countries to Sri Lanka, so you got to have transportation, right? Okay. If you are sending your products to other countries, you got to have transportation, right? Okay, right? So very important, right? Security very important, right? Right. So security was a need which was very important during the Easter attack that happened in Sri Lanka. No? During that time, security was a important need that had to be satisfied. And nowadays, all students, now if you can see nowadays, right? Some countries are uh, in war, right, with certain countries, right? Okay. So nowadays, just to safeguard the citizens of those countries, right, countries have taken security measures. So that is satisfying the security needs, right? Okay, right. Entertainment has become very important these days, right? Because people are very hectic, right? People are very stressful, right? People are very stressful based on the work that they do. Right? So they just want to find things to satisfy their mental needs, right? Okay, so that's why you have these what do you call jogging paths, no? Right? In different areas of the country. Even right next to my house, there's a small jogging path. Right? It's very nicely done with a nice park, right? So to entertain yourself, right? 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 Okay. So not only jogging paths, you have different parks, right? And then you have different musical shows, right? TV shows, movies. So you have a lot of options to entertain yourself as well, because that is also an important need to satisfy. Okay, right? So this is about needs, students, right? This is about needs, right? So right, right, this is about needs, right? Now I hope you have got a very good understanding about needs, right? Now, there's a very nice phrase which is being given here, right? There's a very nice phrase which is being given here, right? So I just want to end the discussion about needs by simply quoting this particular notation, right? Which was introduced by Philip Kotler, right? So Philip Kotler is a known individual in the field of marketing, right? In the field of marketing, Philip Kotler is a very known individual, right? Right. Uh, so we normally call him as the father of modern marketing, right? So when you all are learning marketing subjects, right? I mean, when you are learning your marketing lesson in grade 13, right? I'll be talking about this great individual. Okay, right, right, right. Okay, right. So according to Philip Kotler, he says a human need is a state of deprivation. What do you mean by state of deprivation or deprivation? Right. What do you mean by that? Simple, right? Right. Simply, what do you mean by the state of deprivation? State of deprivation or deprivation means, students, right? That's where that's the feeling that you get when you don't satisfy something, or that's the feeling that you get when you are lacking something. That is called the state of deprivation. And now, if you don't have enough food, you feel hunger, right? You feel hunger. You feel like, oh, I didn't have enough food. Now I'm very hungry, right? And if I continue like this, I mean, I might have to take some medications. You feel like you are lacking something. If you don't have enough water, no, right, you feel very thirsty, right? So mentally, you're like fully down. Right? You feel like you have lost something or you're lacking something. That is called the state of deprivation, right? So if you don't satisfy your need, you will be at a state of deprivation where you are lacking something essential in your life. Okay, all right. So with that note in your mind, right, we have discussed about needs. So we have discussed about the first fundamental concept in business, which is called needs, right? So very important, right? Every business is there to satisfy human needs, right? Okay, all right. So before we take things forward, students, just take 1 or 2 minutes. Just take 1 or 2 minutes and reconcile what you have learned, right? So normally I do that, okay, right? So I do that normally when I teach a concept. I ask you to reconcile what you have learned, right? So that will help you to what do you call, get the concepts to the deep end of your brain. Okay, all right. So take 1 or 2 minutes and reconcile. After that, we'll take things forward. All right. All good, students? Is everything okay? Shall we take things forward? Shall we take things forward? All right. Okay. Right. Now, right now, before we move on to the next concept in business, I hope you all can. I hope you all can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I hope you all can hear me. Okay, right. Okay, so students, now before we move on to the next part in our lesson, right? There's a uh, small theory that you need to learn, right? There's a small theory that you need to learn. Okay, so we name this theory as Abraham Maslow's, right? Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, right? Right, 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 right. Maslow's, right, right. Maslow's, right. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Okay. Now, how many of you all have heard of this theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, right? How many of you all have heard of this theory? Can I get a small feedback from you all? How many of you all know about this theory? Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. Students are joining physically. Yes, some of you all know this, right? Some of you all might not know this, right? That's okay, right? That's totally fine. Okay, right. Now, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Theory. Now, this theory was actually introduced by an American psychologist, right? An American psychologist called Abraham Maslow, right? Abraham Maslow, right? 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 So, Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist, right? So, he was a psychologist who studied a lot about human behavior, right? Human needs, human behavior, and human motivation, right? So, as a result of his studies, he introduced a very a practical concept, right? Right, a very popular concept called this hierarchy of needs, right? Hierarchy of needs, right? Now, according to the hierarchy of needs, he says, right? Every human being, right? So, according to the hierarchy, uh, Abraham Maslow says every human being should satisfy 5 levels of needs, right? There are 5 levels of needs that every human being should satisfy. 5 levels, right? So don't worry, I will show you the 5 levels, right? Now, when humans are starting to satisfy these 5 levels of needs, right? First, they start with the most basic needs, right? First, humans start to satisfy their most basic needs, right? And then later, right, slowly, right, humans will start to satisfy the most complex needs, right, and so forth, right? So that's what his hierarchy uh, elaborated, right? So let's look at what are these 5 levels of needs. Now, this is one of the areas, students, uh, that has been tested in your examination, right? At least you will have a question for like 1 or 2 marks from this uh, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory. So in that case, make sure that you listen to this very carefully. Okay, listen to this very carefully. Okay, right, right. So let me first draw the hierarchy. Right, let me first draw the hierarchy. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger. No. Right. Okay. Right. Now, right now, don't get confused by this triangle, right? Okay, so I'm going to draw the hierarchies inside this triangle. Okay, so don't worry. Okay, right. All right. Now, according to Abraham Maslow, he said there are 5 hierarchies or 5 levels of needs that you need to satisfy. So we'll start from the most basic and the most fundamental set of needs that we need to satisfy, right? Right. This is the first level, right? This is the first level, right? Right. Guess what is the first set of needs that we need to satisfy, right? These are we call them as the biological, right? These are the biological and the logical needs, physiological needs, right? Okay. Biological and the physiological needs that you need to satisfy. Okay, so those are the first set of needs that you need to satisfy. Okay, what are these biological and the physiological needs that you need to satisfy? These are the basic needs, Like what? We learned about it. Like the food, right? Right. You have food, right? Right. Like what? Food, water, clothing, right? Shelter, right? Okay. Now, food, right? Proper sleep, right? Right? Right. So these are the basic, right? These are the basic levels of needs that you have to satisfy. Yes. Yes, students, you can take shelter also. Yes, correct. Shelter also we can take it here, right? That's fine because at the moment, those are the, I mean, we actually need those, the basic needs, right? Right. So now you have enough food, enough water, enough clothing, you have a good shelter, right? You have a good sleep, right? Right. Right. You have clean air, right? And now you have satisfied your most fundamental needs that you want to have to live a comfortable life. Okay, now you're happy, right? Now you're happy, right? Now, students, we are all human beings, no? Right? We are all human beings, right? When we satisfy these set of needs, do we think that we will stop from here? Right? Do you think that we will stop from here? Right? No, right? We want furthermore needs to be satisfied. Okay, we are like that, right? We don't easily get satisfied, no, right? So then Abraham Maslow said, right, when individuals or human beings satisfy their most basic biological and physiological needs, then human beings would look to satisfy their safety needs. Right? Safety needs. The safety needs. Right? Safety needs. Right? Isn't it? Right? Now you have everything. Right? Now your tummies are full with food, right? You have clean water, good house to stay, right? Right? Clothes, good clothes to wear, good vehicles are there, right? Now you're sort of happy. And then you want to satisfy your safety needs. Like what? Right? Now you have every single thing of these things. But what if you don't have protection? What if you don't have enough security? What will happen? Right? There will be lots of burglary happening, right? Right? Thieves will come and steal your belongings. So then, even though you would have all these fundamental needs, you'll be very scared to live, right? You don't have proper protection, security. There are no proper laws. If you don't have anything, if you don't have things like those protection, security, laws, then no point of having all these things, right? Because you got to keep yourself safeguarded first. If you're not there, these things will also not be there, right? So these are called safety needs, right? Right? To satisfy your protection, right? To satisfy your protection, there are laws, right? Safety, right? So now you need to satisfy your safety needs, okay? Right. Now we have come to the second set of needs. We have satisfied the second level of needs, right? This is the first level, and this is the second level, right? Okay. Now you are happy, right? Now you are happy, very happy. You have all the fundamentals, and also you are being safeguarded and protected also. Right? Okay. Now everything is fine, right? Now you are happy, right? Now after some time, right? I told you, ones are not getting satisfied, right? After some time, right? There's another set of needs that you will try to satisfy yourself. What are those needs? Huh? These are called what? Right? Right? Now you have all these things. What if you don't have a family to share your happiness? Right? What if you don't have a lover to share your life with? Huh? What if you don't have a set of friends, right, to to enjoy time? You'll be left alone, right? You'll be left alone. So in that case, students, now people will try to satisfy their love and belongingness needs. Belongingness needs. Right. Love and belongingness needs. These are the third levels of needs that we need to find. Right? So you want to be loved and you want to love someone, you got to have a loving family, father, mother, siblings, right? Girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. So you got to feel love, caring, right? That companionship should be there, right? And also now, if you, what do you call? If you are alone in school, right? I mean, it is a little bit tough for you to run the day, right? So in the school, you have a nice clique, no? Clique of friends. We call them as the clique of friends, right? 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 So you do everything with them, no? Right? Right? You sit together, you eat together, you go to the canteen together, you play together, right? So now you feel like you belong to a small clique, small group. In that group, you have a say. That is called belongingness. Right? You want to be a part of a unit, right? Right? And you got to have a word in that. So that is called love and belongingness needs. Love and belongingness needs, right? So this will suggest us very specifically family, right? Right? What else? Right now, you all can also tell me examples, right? Family, relationships, relationships, right? Right? Family, relationships, right? Affection, caring, affection, right? Caring. All these things are examples for love and belongingness needs, right? Okay. So you want to be loved, right? You want to be a part of a unity. Right? You want to be a part of a unit, right? Okay. Still, we are not satisfied, right? It's a very big problem, isn't it? Right? Yeah, definitely, right? They're all like that, right? We don't satisfy ourselves very easily, right? Furthermore, we want furthermore, right? Now, this is not what I say, right? Online students, don't think that this is not what I say, These are the, what do you call, levels of needs that is being introduced by Abraham Maslow. But Abraham Maslow didn't just made this concept or made this theory. He has done enough an amount of research and found out. I mean, just reconcile about yourself also. Oh, you will also be like that. Okay, right. Okay, then what is the fourth level of need that we need to satisfy? Right. Okay, now we have all the fundamentals satisfied. We have satisfied our safety needs. Now we have a family, we have set of friends, we have a team, right? Next, you want to satisfy your esteem needs. What do you mean by esteem needs? Now, what do you mean by esteem needs? Right? Okay. Right? Now, even though you have all these things, right? Now you want to actually step outside the box, right? And you want to be a character. You want to build a character for yourself, right? Okay, right? Even if you are part of a family or even if you are part of a small clique of friends, now you want to be that, what do you call, the most popular person in your gang, right? No, we have no, the gang of friends. You want to be the most popular one in the clique that you have. Even in the family also, you want to be the right most loved, right, most loved kid. No, you want to be like that. So now you are trying to make a statement for yourself. You are focusing on achieving something, making a name for yourself. No, so that's why if you study really hard and if you get good results for your advanced level examination, your parents would be happy, the parents would be proud of you, your relatives would be proud of you. You have made a name for yourself. You have made a name for yourself because you have achieved something. So esteem means is that, students. You want to achieve something in life which other people has not achieved, so that you will be able to make a name for yourself. You will be recognized among everyone, right? Right? You will have a good reputation, right? Okay, right? So that is called, those are called esteem needs. Those are called esteem needs, right? It will make a name for yourself. So what are the examples? What are the examples? Achievements, right? 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 Achievements. Then you have what else? Right? Status, na, reputation, status, reputation. Right? These are called esteem needs, right? Right? These are called esteem needs. It will create a good status for you, right? Right. Now, do you still think people are satisfied? No, 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 no. According to Abraham Maslow, not yet. Right? Now you will start satisfying, right, the next set of needs. We call it as what? We call it as self-actualization needs. We call them as self-actualization needs. Self-actualization needs. What are these needs? What are these needs? Right? Okay. Now you come to this level. It is the fifth level of needs that you need to satisfy. Right? When you come to this level, students, when you come to this level or the fifth level or the self-actualization stage, as per the word says, right? 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 As per the word says, you have actualized all of your needs. Right? You have actualized simply most of the needs that you want to satisfy. This is the point where you have satisfied the goals in your life. We talk about life goals, no? Right? We talk about life goals, right? So this is the point where you have reached your life goals, right? You feel like, oh, when you come to this level, wow, I have satisfied all of my needs. From here onwards, I don't have any need to satisfy furthermore, any need to satisfy myself furthermore. You feel like, okay, now it's enough. Now it's time for me to relax. Right now, it's time for me to relax, enjoy life. I'm not saying that you didn't enjoy the life, but in here, you feel like you give priority for your personal um, fulfillment, for your personal growth, right? For your mental relaxation. All those things will be focused on here, right? 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 Personal growth, fulfillment, right? So, students, this is the summary of Maslow's 5 hierarchies of needs. If I put it in summary, every human being should satisfy 5 levels of needs, and every human being will start from the most basic level of needs, which are biological and psychological, physiological. Then safety, love, belongingness, esteem, and self-actualization. From this most simplest level to human beings will satisfy them on a hierarchical order, in an order, right? in an order, right? That's why I have put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is what uh, the world famous American psychologist Abraham Maslow narrated us with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, right? So in your examination, they will ask different levels. Now you can nicely answer. All right. Okay. Right. Now let's take 1 or 2 minutes, students, and just reconcile. And this is not been given in your tute. So make sure that you note it down in your tute. I will give you like 1 or 2 minutes, and during that time, you draw this. And then if you all have any questions, you can ask them. Online students, while you are drawing, if you all have any clarifications, please ask me. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Right. Okay, students. Now that we have fully discussed uh, needs and also Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we can conclude the discussion for needs. Right. Now let's move on to the next part of the lesson. Right. Next part of the lesson. Right. Let's go back to the tube. Right. Okay. Now, students, we are going to discuss the second, right, the second concept or the second fundamental when it comes to business. We call them as what? Wants. We call them as wants. Right? Right. Can you all hear me clearly? Can I get a feedback? Yes? All right. Super. Right. Now, what are wants? Right? What are wants? Okay. What are wants? Very simple, right? Now, you earlier we learned about needs, now, right? Earlier we learned about needs, right? Now we know that as human beings, we need to somehow satisfy our needs, or else we cannot live a comfortable life. We cannot be happy. We cannot live a good life, quality life. No. Now, if you really need to satisfy your needs, you really have to satisfy your needs. What are the ways that we can satisfy our needs? How are we going to satisfy our needs? You get a question, right? A big question mark. Right? So don't worry, students. We are satisfying our needs through our two different wants. Right? Very simply, wants are the different means by which fundamental needs are fulfilled. Right? Different ways how we can satisfy our needs. That's the most simplest understanding, right? Okay. So can you please write the note, right? Have given you a small space here. You can write it down. Different means, right? Different means, right? Means, means, different means, different means, or else different ways, right? You can use whatever the word. Different means by which, write it down, different means by which the fundamental needs can be fulfilled. Different means by which the fundamental needs can be fulfilled. Then second point you can write, the basis for any want, the basis for any want, right? The basis for any want, the second point, the basis for any want is a need, right? So very simple, because without a need, a want would be existing, right? First, you got to have the need, and then only you can find ways to satisfy that need. So that's why it says the basis for any want is a need. First, you got to have a need, then you will satisfy your needs with different options through wants, right? Okay. right? So just to explain you about wants, right? I've given you a very nice table. Right? So this table will give you a very elaborative understanding about wants, right? On the left hand side of the table, right? On the left hand side of the table, you have all the needs that we learned earlier, right? Food, clothing, shelter, education, communication, transportation, health, safety, entertainment. I have given all the set of needs. Right? Now, for each specific need, what are the corresponding ways of satisfying it? Or what are the different types of wants to satisfy it? So let's take one by and see, one by one and see. If you are in hunger, no, right? Right now, I know, right? So we are in the, I mean, we are right closer to the tea time, no? Yes, students, right? Now you feel hunger. You want to have some food after the class, right? Okay. Right. Even though all of you all feel the hunger, all of you all have to satisfy your need for food, right? Right. Some of you all might have, uh, let's say, uh, a cup of tea, right? Some of you all might have a cup of tea, right? Then some of you all might have a piece of bread, right? Okay. Or some of you all might have, let's say, a savory item like a fish bun, like a sausage bun, right? Okay. Right. Some of you all might have a good rice and curry because you have been in the class from the noon itself, right? Okay. So in that case, some of you all might have rice and curry. There you go, students. For you to satisfy your need for food, you have different options available. Right? You have different options available. There is not only one option. There is not only rice and curry available. You have ample amount of options available. And those are called wants. Different means by which you can satisfy your needs. Understood? Understood? Right. Now, if you take clothing, right? If you take clothing, right? Right. If you want to cover yourself up, you can see I am wearing a shirt, and I'm wearing a shirt, right? Right. You might be wearing a t-shirt, right? Right. You might be wearing a blouse, right? A skirt, a denim. There you go. Different options available. Different options available for you to satisfy the same need. Then if you take shelter, right? If you take shelter, right? Right. So I of course live in a house where it has a nice garden, right? So I'm a person who would love to live in a house where it has a garden, right? Okay, right. So that's my way. That's how I satisfy my need for shelter. But some of you all might not want to live like that. Some of you all want to live in an apartment where you don't have a garden, but you have a nice view, no, right? Right next to the beach, you have an apartment, right? You see the sunset and the sunrise every single day with the cool breeze in the night. There you go, different experience, right? Some of you all might want to live in a bungalow, in a hotel. There you go, different ways we can satisfy our need for shelter. Education, right? Very important, right? Right. So education, of course. Now you all have selected advanced level. You all have selected advanced level, but some of your friends might have selected a degree program after O levels, going to a university, right? Doing a diploma program, degree program, are different options available. But in all those options, one need is satisfied. That is called what? Education. Education, right? Then what about communication? Wow. So nowadays we have lots of ways to communicate, right? Okay. Right. So back in the days we had only telephones, no, right? The large land phones, no, right? But nowadays we have what do you call smartphones, right? And in smartphone we have social media, right? There are certain messaging apps, right? Okay. So now there are different ways, but still there are people who use letters, right? Okay, so different ways to communicate. Transportation, you might prefer to go in your private car, or some might prefer to go in the bus, right? Or some might like to go in a train. Right now, these days, of course, this is very problematic. The transportation, right? So we have a small, what do you call, fuel shortage at the moment, right? Okay, don't panic yourself, right? Okay. And so in that case, uh, um, to reduce the consumption of fuel, right? You might go in the public transport, right? Okay. Now, a good example, right? Now, every day I have to go to office now, right? Every single day I have to go to office, right? So in that case, I normally travel in my private vehicle, right? Okay, right? So now, since this fuel shortage is there, I just want to safeguard the amount of fuel that I have in the vehicle. For any emergency case, I just want to keep my vehicle. So what I do is, I have a small bicycle, right? A pedaling bicycle, right? I have a small pedaling bicycle. So I pedal my bicycle to office, right? 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 Like 3 days in a week, right? I used to go in my bicycle. So it's good. It's good for my body, right? It's good for my health, right? And no worries with the fuel, right? So I have adjusted now, right? Right? Every morning I go to office, I pedal to office in my bicycle, and then I come back in the evening, right? So different ways to transport, right? Right? So there you go, right? And then if you take health, right? So if you want to get some treatments done, right? You can go to a hospital. Hospitals, of course, you have options. Either you can go to a private hospital, or you can go to a government hospital, right? Or else there are certain medical tests done in certain laboratories. So different options available, but everything satisfies the need for health. Then if you take security, you have armed forces like police, army, navy, right? And then you have security agencies, right? Right? You have safety gadgets also to satisfy your safety need, like the cameras that you have at home, CCTV cameras. Those are all safety gadgets. Insurance is also another option to safeguard yourself, right? Okay, right? So to entertain yourself, right? Oh my gosh, these days, I mean, you have a lot of options to entertain yourself, right? Right? So I should ask, what is not available to entertain yourself? Isn't it? Right? Hey, right? When I entertain you, everyone is smiling also. Exactly. I can see from your smiles, right? There are lots of options available to entertain yourself, right? You have music, right? You can put yourself a small pair of beats, then you can listen to nice music, right? There are cinemas available, no? Right? You can get 2D experience, 3D experience, 4D, 8D experience, cinemas, right? Movies, you can go and watch a movie, entertain yourself. And then you have Netflix at home, right? It's also an entertaining platform, movies. Then you can watch stage dramas, and nowadays a lot of individuals are nowadays a lot of individuals are using social media to entertain themselves, right? Using social media to entertain themselves, right? You have Facebook, Instagram, then you have TikTok, no? Right? Nowadays TikTok is very popular, where you do a small act, you dance, you sing, right? You do certain things to act, and you put a small video on TikTok, so it will quickly get popular. So people entertain themselves by watching these videos, right, on TikTok and all those social media platforms, right? Okay, fine. Anyway, now what I want to mention is, to them, even though you have a very limited set of needs, right? Even though you have a very limited set of needs, you have unlimited set of wants that you can satisfy that particular need. Right? That's what I want to mention here. So this list of bonds will have no end. It will go over and over again. Right? Time to time, different types of bonds will come into the list. So you cannot just keep a full stop. It's a long list. It's a long list. Okay. Right. Now you have a very good understanding about needs and wants. We'll come to the final part of today's discussion where we are going to talk about the difference between needs and wants. The difference between needs and wants. And very important students, this is also another area which will be highly tested in your examination, right? Highly tested in your examination, right? So in that case, right, make sure that you focus on this. All right, understood? Right? Okay. Right. So if you take needs, right, needs are actually primary, right? Needs are primary. What do you mean by needs are primary? Right? Primary means, students, right? Right. For every human being, you need to somehow satisfy your needs. It's essential for you to satisfy your needs, right? It's essential for you to satisfy your needs. Because if you don't satisfy your needs, you will not be able to survive. So that's why it says needs are primary, right? So you got to give the first attention to your needs as they are primary, because without satisfying them, you cannot live a happy life or you cannot function properly. Then if you take wants, wants secondary action. Why? Why wants are secondary, students? Right? So basically, if you take wants, it is not essential for your survival, right? Now, if you take as an example, right? If you are hungry, right? If you are hungry, okay, if you are hungry, there is no hard and fast rule that says if you are hungry, you got to have a rice and curry. There's no hard and fast rule like that. Okay, right? There is no hard and fast rule. It says that if you don't have rice and curry to satisfy your need for food, you will die. There's no statement like that. So that's why it says there are ample amount of bonds are available to satisfy your need for food, right? So that's why it says wants are not essential for your survival. But students, if you take wants, right, they will improve your lifestyle and the comfort, and improve your lifestyle and the comfort. Right? Another example we could take, if you take transportation, right? You have options. Either you can go in a public bus, right? Okay, public bus, right? Or else you can go in your private vehicle, right? But you are satisfying the same need for transportation, going from one location to another location. But the comfort that you get, right? The comfort that you get, the quality that you get is different. Now, if you travel in your private vehicle, right? You have separate seat for you, right? Your vehicle could be having air condition, right? Okay. If you want, you can put your what do you call most pop. If you want, you can put a song that you like, right? Okay. So it's very comfortable for you to travel in your private vehicle, in your private car. But if you go in a public bus, can you do all these things? Do you have a separate place to sit? No, of course. If a seat is occupied, right, then go and sit. If not, you have to stand and do, right? You have to hang your bag to you have to hang the bag to your shoulder. There is no separate place to keep your bag, right? There is no AC, right? A lot of people getting in. You have to stay in the traffic. Okay? So likewise, right? Even though both the options of traveling in a private car and traveling in a public bus satisfy the need for transportation, but the way it will comfort you is different, right? It will comfort you is different. I hope you understand, right? Okay. So in that case, students, don't think that you cannot survive without satisfying your wants. You can, right? Because there are ample amount of wants available, but Based on the option that you are choosing, it will increase the comfort and the lifestyle. Then, if you take needs, right? If you take needs are common to everyone. Yes, right? If you take needs are common to everyone, right? Right? Irrespective of whether, right, you are a rich person, irrespective of whether you are a poor person, right? Right? It doesn't matter your status. Right? Every human being should satisfy their needs. Right? Everyone will feel hunger. Everyone will feel thirst. No, isn't it? Right? When everyone gets sick, then obviously they need to get treatments done. You might be the most richest person. It doesn't matter. You got to satisfy your needs. That's why it says needs are common to everyone. But if you take wants, it differs from person to person. So we can call it as subjective. Why? Even though it's the same need, the way that you're trying to satisfy your need could be different to a person from a person to another person. Right? You might choose your private car to transport, but another person might use a public bus to transport for transport, right? So it differs from person to person, right? It differs from person to person. Needs are of course limited, right? I gave you the list of needs, very limited, but if you take wants are unlimited. Can you see? Earlier we discussed in the table. For each need, you have a long list of wants where you cannot keep a full stop. Every single day, different bonds will come into the market. Different options will come into the market. So bonds are unlimited. Right? Then if you take needs are essential for survival, that of course you know. Bonds are not essential for survival. Then students, if you take needs are generated at birth, right? If you take needs are generated at birth. Now, if you take a small infant, if you take a small infant, right? That small infant will also feel the hunger, right? Then the mother will breastfeed that particular small infant with some milk to feel the hunger, right? Okay, right? So not only hunger, all the other needs will be there for us. All the other needs will be generated at birth. But if you take bonds, students, those are created by businesses, yes. So these different bonds are created by businesses, right? Okay. Right. Back in the days, right, like 50, 70 years ago, right, or 100 years ago, like a century ago, we didn't have social media. Right? We didn't have Facebook, Instagram. We didn't have platforms like those to entertain ourselves or to communicate. We didn't have those things. But now they have created those platforms. Different individuals have innovated those platforms for you to satisfy your need for communication and entertainment. There you go. So that's why it says bonds are created by businesses. Bonds are created by businesses. Then, if you take needs, students, needs cannot be changed or affected by exactly, right? So if you take needs cannot be affected by factors in the environment, right? Right? People cannot, or government cannot influence on the needs, right? These are natural things. Can someone tell you should not eat from today onwards? Can someone put a stipulation like that? Can someone say from this day onwards you can wear only this shirt? Say like that. Can someone say from this day onwards you got to live in the streets, not in a nice home? No, no one cannot do that. No one cannot influence your needs because these are generated at birth. No one cannot control your needs. No one cannot control your needs. Any factor, even the government cannot control the needs. Needs are natural, right? Those are generated at birth. So no factor could affect the needs. But students, if you take wants, yes, can be affected. Wants, of course, can be affected by certain social forces, right? Certain social forces, right? Okay, right? Now, a very good example, right? A very good example, right? Now, these days, right? These days, we have a small fuel shortage in the country, right? So, the government has requested the general public to reduce the usage of private vehicles, right? Because if you use private vehicles over and over again, it will consume a lot of fuel. Now we are at a position where, as a country, we need to safeguard the fuel stocks that we have. Okay, so in that case, the government has requested from general public to use public transport, as a mode of transport mechanism rather than using your private vehicle. So in here, the government has actually affected or influenced the ways of transportation available, right? Okay, right? So there you go. There you go. Very good classic example. So likewise, students, these wants could be affected, right? Right? Can be changed by different social forces. When the world is changing, these wants might change. Another example, right? Another example, right? Now, few years ago, like I would say 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, we didn't have these online options available, right? When I was doing my advanced level students, right? Right? For me to learn a particular subject, we had only physical classes, right? We had to go to a particular institute and learn physically, right? Right? But now, can you see the change, right? For you to educate yourself, right? You can study things online. Now, there are some students who are joining online tests, right? So, as a result of the changes in the world, right? These all these online things came into the picture due to COVID. Right? People started working at home online. Students started studying at home online. Due to the changes in the environmental factors, wants were affected, right? So these online platforms here, there you go. Can you see? Can you see very nicely how the social forces, environmental factors will affect the wants? But needs, they were not affected. The need for education was the same. But now you can educate yourself physically plus online. That is fine. Okay, understood? Right. Okay, students. So this is the difference between needs and wants. This is the difference between needs and wants, right? So very important. This part is highly tested in the examination in every question, in any, I mean, in most of the past paper questions, right? This part has been tested, right? So in that case, make sure that you give your attention and learn this part very well because I gave you all some examples, right? So students, when I give some examples, make sure that you write those examples in your team. Keep them noted. Then when you're studying, you can remember the concept through the example which I gave. Okay, right. All right, students. So this marks the end of our discussion for needs and wants.